Welcome to Body Hack and Build a Better You, the podcast where we unlock the secret to living a longer, healthier life and create a bloom zone in our life and within our family. I'm your host, Michaela Morell, and I'm here to provide you with the tools and knowledge to empower you to build a better you, one essential building block at a time. Today, I'm sitting in my temporary office, aka my hotel room in Norway. It will be another month or so until we have moved into our house and my furniture have arrived. But I have lately been cuddling with so many cute babies that I got inspired to record an episode for all parents out there. So today's episode will be all about what I wish I knew before becoming a mom. I collected the things I learned over the course of 3 children that I know would have played a big role in my firstborn's health, if only I knew from the start. So if you haven't heard about terms like BLV, EC, gut health, block nursing, and pains of nursing, etc., then have a pen handy because you might want to write things down. And before you listen, make sure to read the disclaimer in the show notes. But let's dive in. Welcome to Body Hacking Build a Better You. And today I'm going to talk about what I wished I knew before I became a mom. And I'm going to share my birth journey with my firstborn to put everything into the content of what happened that led to different health problems that led me to wanting to know this knowledge before I had kids. So I was 25 when I had my firstborn. And before this, I've been running a business back home in Sweden. I had been moving from Sweden to Norway. I had been moving from Norway to United States. And I also moved from Texas to Phoenix. Tucson, Arizona. And then I moved back to Norway 4 weeks before my baby was supposed to be delivered. And so that is kind of the journey of like where I was living. But I became pregnant in Texas, and then I made a move to Tucson. And during my pregnancy, first of all, I was so nauseated. So nauseated. I could not eat pretty much anything. I was nauseated day and night, and I was really, really struggling with being able to eat pretty much anything. So I was basically living off multivitamins, the regular prenatals that was bought in the store. I had no knowledge about supplementation by then. That is something I wished I knew more about. And I was basically eating plain Greek yogurt with mashed bananas. And I ate so many bananas. Bananas was the only thing I could eat without feeling like I was going to puke. So I basically ate that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner the first 16 weeks of my pregnancy. And I was stuck in bed or on the couch, and I could barely stand up without feeling like I was fainting. I had 2 dogs, 2 small border terriers. They were amazing. And they were only like 1 year old and 6 month old. And I trained those dogs to just run downstairs because we were living in an apartment upstairs, and they were running down all by themselves in an apartment complex. They would pee and then they would run straight back up. So I trained them to that, and I would give them treat as soon as they got back up. So they were very motivated to come back. And that was about all the exercise I could do during this period of time. And I was really struggling in life. And I was all by myself all day long. I was living far away from family. I did not really have any support system at all. And I wished I knew more about nutrition because I was so nauseated. And with my experience with my second child, I had learned a lot more of nutrition. I was on higher quality supplementation. I did a lot other things in the choices of choosing what I was eating that I think all of these contributed to me having completely different pregnancy with my number 2 child. Both of them were boys. Usually they say that if you're feeling good with boys, you're feeling worse with girls, or it can be the other way around too, but usually it's the other gender that makes you feel less or worse in a pregnancy. But here I was pregnant with 2 boys, and they're completely different. My second boy, I was really never nauseated at all. I didn't even know I was pregnant for the first 3 months because I kept on having regular periods. So I did not think I was pregnant. Well, it turned out I was pregnant with him. But anyway, that's another conversation. But with my firstborn, I was going to frequent controls. I was so happy being able to become a mother. That had been a dream of mine my whole life. Ever since I was 6 years old, I had dreamt about being a stay-at-home mom and having children of my own. When all the kids in class was sitting in a circle explaining what they wanted to become when they were old, everyone was like, I want to be a firefighter, or I want to be a police officer, or I want to be a ballerina, or whatever people were saying. And then it came to me, I'm like, I want to be a stay-at-home mom. And they're like, that is not a job. I'm like, that is the hardest job. I was smart back then. Yes, I know. And I also fantasized about stealing my my brother. He was 4 years younger than I was. He was only 2 years and I was 6. And I was planning to not kidnap him. I didn't see it like that. I didn't understand that other people would be sad. I just understood I wanted a baby. So it was many times I planned on how much food I was going to bring and all the blankets and all the things I needed to bring and pack and bring with me when I was going to go out in the forest, and I was going to live in the forest with him and he was going to be my baby. I don't know if my mom have ever heard this story, so maybe it's for the best, but now it's out there. So, but anyway, so I've always dreamt about becoming a mom. So when I finally became a mother at age of 25, I was overjoyful. And of course, I'm the kind of personality, I just don't take what people say as facts. I always ask why. So if people tell me, and of course, I was a little bit influenced. So one thing I wished before I became a mother was that choosing how long you're going to nurse your kid can be almost impossible. You will have kids that want to nurse forever. You will have kids that might want to quit after 10 months. And that is one thing I wished I knew before, because I had this perception in my head because of what other people have told me. Other people have told me it's so disgusting seeing mothers nurse their babies when they're above 1 years old. Why would they share the boobies with them? It's weird. Anyway, I had heard other people think like this. So because of that, I thought it was a little bit weird when women chose to breastfeed longer than 1 year. And then I had my baby, and he just wanted to breastfeed all the time. He did not even want real food. Like, he didn't even have time to eat real food during daytime. He would just go, climb, explore the world like crazy. And he did not want anything. Like, he was too busy, and he filled himself up during nighttime instead. So he was awake every other hour of the night, like breastfeeding. And we tried to quit. I tried to quit. I had this idea like, okay, 1 year and then I'm done. Well, when he was 1 year, we tried to quit, and my husband would help me, and we would kind of like try to keep him away from our breasts, and he would just be screaming nonstop. And when you're reading on it on the internet, it's like, okay, a new habit takes time to get used to. It can take about 3 to 5 days. Well, my kid, he's extraordinary. He's not he's not taking a no for a no. And that 3 days did not work. That 5 days did not work. We tried 6 days, 7 days, 8 days, 9 days. On day 10, with no sleep for anyone and just screaming and crying and being frustrated. And I tried to be in another room even to make it easier for my kid and my husband, but no. And he really felt like I was hating him, keeping them away from him. Anyway, we just saw that it took too big of a toll on him. So I allowed him to keep on breastfeeding instead. It was easier that way. I tried again when he was a year and a half. I tried again when he was 2. I tried again when he was 2.5. because then I was pregnant with number two, and I was telling him like, well, your baby brother will be here soon, and he's gonna need this. This is the only food he will be eating now for the next 6 months and the next year, which ended. He actually started hating his little brother. And he started telling me that he did not like his brother. He did not wish him to come out of my stomach. He did not want to be around him. And even though I successfully was able to quit nursing for a little bit, when his little brother was born, he was so hateful towards his little brother that it was not healthy. So I allowed him to start nursing again together with his little brother, and they could have some bonding time instead. And instead, a few weeks after, when he started loving his little brother, I just gave him a choice of, hey, you can go to the toy store, you can buy any toy you want if you want to become a big boy and not nurse anymore. So he went to the store and he bought a $300 worth of car track. And I was like, whatever it costs, I'm done with this. Like, it's too much. He needs to quit. Anyway, so I bought that for him. I did not care about the price. For me, it was my freedom online. And and he bought it, and it didn't go more than like 2 days until he had trashed the whole thing. He had destroyed it because he was so mad when he was wanting to breastfeed. And I was like, no, you chose to become a big boy. You got your car track instead, and now you're big. He went and he smashed it, and it got destroyed. But then it wasn't his little brother anymore that he was mad at. It was his car track. And that's completely fine. Completely fine with me. It was not his little brother he tried to destroy. It was just that. But that is something I wished I knew before, that kids, they can be very, very, very strong-willed. And it can be whatever people are saying out there that, oh, it's easy. It's only 3 days. You need to be able to survive. Like, no, we tried over 10 days. Every single time we tried, didn't work. It didn't work until he had a vocabulary and we could talk with him and he could choose to become big. And even then, it was not easy. It was so many tears and so much anger in the beginning, but we survived. Well, that is one thing. Another thing that happened when I was pregnant with him and I went to all of these controls and so on, my the doctors want to put me on antibiotics. I've heard it's not good, but who am I to question the doctor? And they had seen elevated proteins in my urine and they wanted to put me on antibiotics. So they put me on antibiotics, and that completely ruined my gut health, of course. It always does in one way or another. And I am so sad about this happening because even if I had been on that round of antibiotics, they kept on seeing elevated protein levels in my urine. It did not get fixed with antibiotics. It kept on being there. They were kind of frustrated and they wanted to put me on more antibiotics. I kind of told them no, it didn't work anyway. Why? And I'm feeling fine. There was really nothing I felt was wrong with me after my nauseation went away. So I told them I did not want any more antibiotics. I wished I would have known enough to be able to tell them no the first time, because I don't think it's right that you're handing out antibiotics so easily for things they don't even know what's wrong. I understand if you have a urine infection, but even with a urine infection, if you catch it early enough, you can do so much for your own health to help support that urine infection to go away if you have the knowledge to do it right away. If you are able to get a hold of demonose, if you're able to drink lots of cranberry juice, or I mean, that is my preferred method, but you have lemon water and you have just acid thing and like drink lots of it, it can flush out it. But you need to start before it gets too far that it can actually become dangerous to you when you're pregnant. But that is something I also wish I knew because I have had urine infection and have needed antibiotics. And then after that, I started researching, okay, what can I do next time if this ever happened again? And after that, I've had urine infection probably 2 or 3 times, but I never needed antibiotics because I could handle it myself before it even got that bad. Anyway, so one of the aftermath of my antibiotics was that because of my poor gut health, my baby was born with poor gut health. He did not inherit any healthy bacteria when he was born vaginally because I didn't have it. And because of that, I'm not going to say it's 100% because of that, but I am seeing the correlation. So I am assuming this is not medical facts at all. I'm just seeing correlation. And he's the only child of mine that have had colic. And he's the only child I've needed antibiotics while being pregnant with. So with the knowledge I have about gut health, I'm just assuming that his poor gut health and his need for, or his pain in his gut came from very poor gut health. And he wasn't able to have a functioning gut health. Just leave it with that. And I wished I knew more about gut health, so I could have started him on probiotics right away if I needed antibiotics. And I wished I would have started on really good probiotics. I did do some probiotics and but they weren't good enough. And I did not understand that probiotics need prebiotics, and probiotics without them is not really working. And I was eating healthy. Like I ate a lot of fermented yogurts, fermented veggies. So I should have been able to build it up. But it can be so hard to build something up when your gut is struggling. It can be so hard with just building it up with nutrition because what you're eating is usually just, if you have a healthy gut, it's able to maintain a healthy gut. But when you're having an unhealthy gut, it is really hard to eat enough. So it's not only maintaining, but actually building it up. So I wished I had more knowledge about the prebiotic fibers that could really, really have made a big change for my gut health. And that could have really helped my firstborn to maybe potentially not even have colic. And his colic was bad. He was screaming from 2 p.m. in the afternoon, like 1, 2 p.m., until he fell asleep around midnight. Sometimes 11 p.m., sometimes 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. He was just screaming so much, and it was so painful. And we tried a lot of different things that we were recommended by the doctors. We tried drops that would break down his bubbles. And I also had an overproduction of breast milk. So another thing I wished I knew before I became pregnant because of the overproduction of my breast milk was how to regulate that myself. And I learned something when I was pregnant with my second child, or I think it was actually in the end of my first child. I heard the first time about block nursing, which means that you're not nursing every other time on each side. Instead, you're nursing in blocks of 4 hours or 6 hours. And I started doing that. So you only nurse on one breast for 6 hours, and then you nurse on the other breast for 6 hours. And that way, you are not sending new signals to the breasts to keep on producing more and more and more, but you are actually having long enough break for the body to see, okay, there's no one nursing on this breast. We do not need to produce as much milk. So block nursing is really, really beneficial if you're a person that is producing milk for 2 and 3 and 4 kids. We don't need that much milk. And because I was producing so much milk too, I always had issues with tenderness and with mjölkstockning, inflammations in my breasts, and so on. Trying to figure out this English word for it. But so that is something I also wished I knew before I had my kids, because then I would have had a lot of less soreness and struggle with all the inflammation in my breasts going on all the time because I just had too much. I usually pumped out before I even started feeding my kid because I had so much. He didn't need to suck. And when he doesn't have to suck, he's not creating the vacuum, the he swallows too much air if he doesn't need to suck. Uh, so I usually pumped it out beforehand and then had him suck. But it would just have been a lot easier if I would have known about block nursing. So if you're struggling with too little milk, on the other hand, you should definitely nurse on each breast every single time. And sometimes you might want to even breastfeed them on both breasts every single time to stimulate the body to produce more milk. So that was another thing. Another thing I wished I knew before I had him was something called EC. EC is a way of communication with your child to understand when he needs to go to the bathroom. I did not know about this with my firstborn. I knew it with my secondborn and my thirdborn, and I started them right away. So even when I was at the hospital, I held them over the sink and they would pee and they would poop over the sink instead of in their diaper. And so they were amazing. My firstborn, I did not know about this. And my firstborn, I was also using regular diapers. With my second and with my third, I learned about cloth diapers, and I wished I would have done that with my first one too. And cloth diapers can be very hard and very demanding, but if you're doing it together with the EC, where you are teaching your kids to pee and poop outside of the diaper instead, you don't hardly ever have pee diapers. It's very little laundry you have to do. Because kids are not trained to pee on themselves or poop on themselves. They don't like it. And that is a lot of the reason why kids are becoming constipated, because they don't really want to pee and poop on themselves and they're trying to hold it in. If you're having a baby that is peeing a lot in their sleep, it is most likely because they don't like peeing on themselves and they're feeling how they're peeing during daytime. So they're avoiding it. And then during nighttime, when they're relaxing, they will pee on themselves. So if you're using them, I mean, kids are usually wanting to go to the bathroom after they have been eating, after they have been sleeping. So when they wake up, and after they have been nursing, and after they have been, if it have just been a very long period of time since they were last time. So what I started doing is I was just holding them over the sink and putting on some water and making the sound of like water and using that sound, and they would pee because they did not want to pee in the diapers. As soon as we take off the diaper, kids usually pee. That is why so many people, so many parents have been sprayed down. As soon as they open up their diaper, they start peeing and you get it on top of you. If you instead don't take off the diaper when they're laying down, you're taking off the diaper when you're holding them over a sink, then they can pee in the sink instead. And then you can praise them. And when you do that, every time you start taking off the diaper, they will start peeing then instead. And what is so good then is that they are emptying their bladder so much better, and they're less risk of having both constipation and urine infection, because also they will empty themselves better when they're pooping too, instead of holding some of it in. And so with my second and with my third child, I did this. So I remember the first 4 months of their life, I had less than 10 poop diapers combined. The first 4 months. They were so good at just pooping on above the toilet. And then peeing, I had like 1, 2, maybe 3 pee diapers a day. They became very dry during nighttime because they did not need to hold it in during the day. So usually I only had to change diaper less than 1 time a night. Often they were all dry in the morning and they would just pee over the sink. So amazing. I wish I knew this about my firstborn because I didn't. And he did not like to pee on himself. So he actually became very constipated. And he did not like going to the bathroom in his diaper. And I didn't know better. I didn't know. It was not until he was about 8 months old I started understanding EC, and I started offering him to go on the bathroom in the potty instead. And he actually loved that. So he started going, and he was actually completely free of diapers while we were traveling and everything when he was a year and a half, both day and nighttime. And most times, like when I quit diapers during daytime too, he only had less than 2 accidents and he was like completely dry from he was about 1 year of age. So that is another thing I wished I knew. And the last thing I want to talk about today, there's a lot of things wished I knew, but today I want to also talk about BLV. So BLV is a train of thought like of the kids doesn't really need real food before 1 year of age. Food before 1 is just for play, basically. And it's not until their teeth are developed, their digestion is developed. So that's the whole thought train of that, that we shouldn't start forcing in things into their gut when it's not 100% developed yet. And when the kids are ready to eat, they are usually able to grab the food by themselves. They're able to usually chew it by themselves and eat it. And one mistake I did with my oldest son too was I was making my homemade baby food and I was mushing everything and I was trying to put it in his mouth and he did not like it. He was spitting it out. And I was like, you know, you're supposed to start with porridge when they're 4 and food when they're 6 months old. And you have all of this like schedules you're getting from the doctors. And with your first child, you're so overly excited. You're like, you can't wait for them to try real food. But in his case, his stomach was not developed. He had colic. He did not feel good. So he was just spitting things out. And I kept on putting it in his mouth, trying to make him used to all the different tastes. And even it was homemade and very clean and very good organic food I was feeding him. If his stomach is not able to handle it, and if his taste buds doesn't like it, he's going to keep on spitting it out. So I actually think I created a trauma with him that he doesn't really like eating food. And even to today's date, like he doesn't sit down and just enjoy eating food. He's actually like eating it as fast as he can, and then he's off to playing because he loves playing. And that is something I am sad about. With my second and with my third child, I knew about this and I actually breastfed them until they could start grabbing food themselves. I never gave them baby food. They ate our food right away when they were ready for it. And they are enjoying and loving food in a completely different way than my firstborn. So that is something I wished I knew. And I'm not going to give you education on everything. I'm like just throwing things out there so that you can start your own research. So remember the terms, write them down, go out into Facebook groups that are specialized in this so that you can learn from them. I'm not an expert. I'm just a passionate mom that have seen trends because I have 3 kids and I have tried different things with them. And because I want to become the best mom I can and I want them to have the best health they can have, I've done extensive amount of research. For example, I never fed my kids with plastic utensils and plastic bottles and things. I chose other materials that was better for them. And for example, in my cabinets, it was always metal plates that my kids got their food on instead of plastic because, I mean, most plates will go into the floor when you're feeding kids. That's just how it is. They are throwing things all over the place. Um, so that is another thing. And actually, I want to also mention I wished I knew about the importance of being in omega balance for kids' development. I wished I knew 60% of the brain is built up with DHA. So the fatty parts in your brain is mainly fats, and 60% of that fat comes from omega 3. If the baby is not having enough and can't get it from you because you're not eating enough, if you can't get it from the breast milk or their environment, they're going to be malnourished in it. And with my first child, I did not have any knowledge about this. And he was hyperactive like crazy. I started reading lots of books like Heal Your Gut and started cooking food against that, like to support that. And I was trying to find, because I understood that his way of acting was most likely due to his brain not being able to function optimally because of what he's eating, his habits, how his gut stomach is, and microbiome, and how his brain is built up, and so on, and how the body, how his brain is translating information. And I had learned enough by now when I was reading up on things. I understood that a lot of what we're doing, we can actually like help manipulate how our body is responding depending on what we're doing. So he was probably about a year and a half before I found omega 3 and I started him on very high dosages. And he actually got adult dosage, even though he was a child, because he responded good to it, but he kept on asking for more. He ate krill oil capsules and chewed them like it was candy. His body was craving it, like no kid in their senses would think it's taste good, but his body was craving it. So I gave him and gave him and I gave him, and I actually took him to a woman in Stockholm that is able to measure things with energy, and she was measuring him. She had a little machine, so when she's putting it on, usually the foot, she can see what the body is responding to. So if you need vitamin C and she puts vitamin C on there, like if the body is craving it, it will scream like on really high frequency. And if it doesn't need it, it's just going to be like the body is not screaming for it. So I took him to her, and the things that he was screaming for was still omega-3. And I was like, really? I'm already feeding him an adult dosage of omega-3. Can it be safe to give him even more? And she's like, well, his body's craving it. It was not until he was 8 years old I found the test where I could measure how much omega-3 he actually had and is actually able to absorb and actually utilize in his body, where I saw that he was still malnourished in omega-3. He was still having an imbalance of 11 to 1 when we are talking about omega-6 to omega-3 molecules, when we're talking about the ratio. And I wished I had this knowledge, because if I would have had this knowledge, I would have been able to give him the right dosage when he was a little child, when his brain was still developing. And when he was, yeah, it's so many things. When you're a parent, you see your kids develop. And my child, everyone that met him thought he was a hurricane. They did not understand how I even dared to take him outside of the house. He was crazy. Crazy is the easiest way to explain him. Completely different to my child number 2 and number 3. Even if they have a lot of like similar personalities, it was just his energy levels and his craziness. And yeah, anyway, I'm not going to go into that too deep today, but I just know that a lot of things would have been different in him growing up, in the frustration we saw when he was trying to learn new things, read, understand the music and piano, for example. That was like the biggest thing. When I was actually understanding the ratio and I was able to give him the right ratio in his, like, balance it out in his body, he started having so much less frustration when he was playing piano. That was like the biggest thing. Like, he started reading faster in textbooks and things, but that could just have been something that should have happened anyway in his development. But seeing him playing piano, going from screaming, I hate this, why you're always making me do this, and seeing how long time it took for him to connect the note to the translation, what happened in his hands. When I got him in balance, he just started playing. And it was so fascinating to watch. And it was less frustration. And that was truly a testimony to me that it actually did a lot of difference. And today, my oldest child, he's like the best. He's like the best. He is so calm, so mature, so amazing. Of course, lots of energy, but I'm really proud over the adult he's becoming. And it's just so fascinating because I could never imagine him being the kid he is today when he was a baby and when he was growing up. So it's fun to see. It's very fun to see. But BLV, EC, the ratio, and antibiotics, probiotics, prebiotics, all of those are things I wished I knew before I had a baby. And also the amount of toxins that is in plastic things. Another thing is also the amount of unhealthy things that are sold as baby things, baby toys that are containing a lot of nasty things. Fire retardants in the car seats we are buying for our kids. I actually researched and I was able to find a brand up in Canada that did not have any fire retardants. They're actually instead using wool that have a natural fire retardant. Anyway, there are so many toxins that kids are subjected to, and all the baby shampoos. Kids doesn't need shampoo. My kids have never used shampoo. They don't ever have oil hair. They're just rinsing it off with water. My girl needs a little bit of a conditioner when it's to work out her tangles, but I have found a really clean one that is considered a no poo one. If you haven't heard no poo, go out and research that too. It's just about explaining how the body doesn't need shampoo and conditioner in the traditional way. We are the ones that are starting using it. And when we are using it, we are destroying our own natural oils and balances in our head. And there is a whole movement of people moving away from using shampoo and conditioners because a lot of those are containing things we don't want into our body and on our skin because it goes straight into our bloodstream. So those are the things. And I'll probably do some more episodes of more things I'm thinking of. But for a new mom or for a parent that is planning to become a parent, those are the things that I wished I truly knew before. And those are easy to go out there and research and do your own work and figure it out. But for me, it just makes sense that I have had a policy of my kids are allowed to come and cuddle with me as much as they want to. And I want to be able to give them the security and safety that they feel around their parents. So that is my belief. Like, I don't like to be alone. So why would a baby want to be alone in their own room? I've always co-slept. I might share a story with you guys if you want to. If you find this episode interesting and you want me to share a story about my son, reach out to me. The story about my son when he was 3 months old. And we had a very traumatic episode there where he actually died and I had to resuscitate him. He's with us today, but it was a very traumatic journey. So maybe that can help some people too to get inspired. I'm going to think about that one. Let me know. Um, but just if I can leave you with something, I would say this. If no one ever influenced you and you were put out on an island with no one there to influence you and you were pregnant and you had your baby, what would your instincts tell you? Would your instincts tell you to put your baby in a in their own bed in another area than you're living with all the animals living out there? Would your body tell you to let your kids scream when they're screaming, or would you pick them up? Would your body tell you to carry your baby around or leave them on the ground? Would your body tell you to nurse your baby whenever you see your baby's hungry, or would your body tell you to nurse your baby on a schedule? And you would look at the clock to see if your baby's allowed to eat? There's so many things that humans have put into systems, which is really, really weird. And of course, sometimes it can be good. Like, yeah, block nursing is really good. That is something I was looking at the clock for. But I still fed the kids whenever they were hungry. um, Something I also wished I knew was there is a real reason why the World Health Organization is recommending nursing up till 2 years of age. The benefits of nursing versus formula or versus in Sweden, we have something called velling. Really, really weird. It's like a liquid porridge, have no nutritional beneficial at all, destroying your gut health, feeding the bad gut bacteria, just giving you empty carbs, too much sugar for your body to handle. Like it's not nutritional dense at all. It's just the biggest the biggest thing they've been able to fool parents into believing that they need to give their babies like every single night before they go to bed. Sorry, parents, if you are out there and you have been feeding this to your kids. I'm just looking from it from a nutrition perspective. But breast milk is very, very nutrition dense. And I wish that it was more information about it. And I wish there was more information on how to get a hold of it if you're not able to produce it yourself. And also, I wish there was more support for women that are struggling with breastfeeding. When I first had my firstborn, I did not know how painful it was going to be. It was so painful that I kind of wanted to hit my kid when he was breastfeeding on me. It was so painful. And I was like crying and screaming every single time for probably like a week. Other people might have given up. I had been around animals. I have seen how important it is with the connection with And I just had a very deep wish. So even if my nipples were bleeding and the baby was puking blood and it was really frustrating, I kept on pushing through. But I just wish there was a better support system for women so that they wouldn't give up so quickly. But what we're never told that it's going to hurt that bad. We think something is wrong. And there's also ways you can start stimulating your breasts and help you prepare for it as well. So that is another thing. Anyway, this episode became long and it's lots of information to digest. Maybe, are you guys feeling you want to go in a little bit deeper on each one? Maybe I want to get some experts on the call in the different fields to explain a little bit more if there's an interest out there. But I just wanted to share this with you. And I hope you guys are doing well, my body hacking community. And let's start body hacking everyone's pregnant body so that we can breed those super babies that are coming out. They have all that they need, everything they need for brain development, for gut health development, so that they can develop to a normal, healthy human being. Well, thank you guys for hanging out with me today. See ya. Bye. Hey guys, if you enjoyed today's episode, I encourage you to do one thing for me. Think of one person you want to share this podcast with and copy the link and send it right away. Thanks for playing an important role in the Blue Zone community. And if you want to keep on building a better you, one essential building block at a time, hit that subscribe button. See you in the next episode.